Howdy goons, quick disclaimer, this game was sent to me by the developer for the purpose of making videos about it. Don't worry, being sent a game has never stopped me from being honest about it. So some of you who know my game preferences might think I don't know anything about cozy games, that I'm some sort of grizzled digital war vet who only likes shooting, looting, and distributing stats. Oh, that's true, but I've been playing cozy games since before some of you were born, before we created the moniker cozy games. While it's not the genre I play the most in my free time, I have played some bangers, like your Harvest Moons, your Rune Factories, Animal Crossing, Stardew Valley, Palia, and the like. I have a pretty good understanding of what these games are supposed to be. To start, Sunseed Island feels like a cash grab, like someone tried to make a bare-bones version of a game series that is known for being quite large. This game is the absolute most basic version of a homesteading game that you can get. I call this genre homesteading because it's easier to define than the nebulous concept of cozy game. Homesteading games are basically any game where the point of it is to develop your land, home, farm, and relationships. This fits the definition of homesteading, which is about living a lifestyle of self-sufficiency. But cozy is faster, so what can you do? There are several reasons why I think this is a cash grab, and I'll go over it, but one big indicator is that the game is only available on the Switch. The Switch doesn't have a way to review or rate games, so if a game is bad, there isn't a way to leave feedback. This makes the Switch storefront the perfect place for scams and cash grabs. This isn't the only aspect of the Switch storefront that they take advantage of. The game has been on sale for almost a month for 80% off. They do this to get to the top of the low to high sorting for prices. So people think it's a really good deal. It is a good deal if you like what's here, but to me, this isn't a game that's normally $10 on sale for $2. It's just a $2 game. And that's fine, but you should be honest about it. The other issue is that this has 5 free DLC. Normally free DLC is perfectly fine, but these are being used to take advantage of the Switch's eShop's search functions. Note that all of these DLC could easily be one bundle. There isn't a reason anyone would want to play only one of these. These didn't even have to be DLC. These could have been put in an update, but they have them as 5 separate things to increase the odds of being discovered in searches. These aren't DLC, these are ads, and by extension, they're contributing to the decline of the quality of the eShop. Then the game also has a bundle, which is just the game plus these free DLC. These 3 things are very common manipulative practices on the storefront and are huge red flags. They are not on other platforms because other platforms wouldn't enable this. These 3 DLC packs also all contain free DLC. None of them include the paid DLC, and because they all include the free DLC, if one of them go on sale, they should all go on sale, because there's a chance that someone will buy one of these other editions thinking that they're getting more than the others. So they're all free DLC, so like why should the others be a different price unless you're intentionally trying to get people to buy the other ones thinking they're getting a better deal when it's actually filled with free DLC. You're trying to scam people out of their money. So maybe the original developer for this doesn't like this, doesn't agree with this. That's the fact. Your publisher, the publisher of this game, is trying to scam people, and is also trying to exploit the Switch eShop and make it worse for everybody. I also found out that this publisher is the same publisher as Cat's Cosmic Atlas, which also does these same practices, which I also didn't like, and I went into more detail in the video that had that game in it. So if you want to see more information on that, please check out this video on the end card. I really don't like it when companies do this because it makes the Switch eShop harder for everyone to use. It scams people without them ever knowing it, and just makes it harder to search and find things by overpopulating the list with DLC that doesn't need to exist. This could have been part of the main game. It could have been included in the game through an update. It could have been a single DLC, but no, they chose to separate it into 5 different DLCs, 3 of which both start with the same first word, so they really could have put those 3 in the first one pack. Okay, each time I think I'm done with this video, I find something more out about the game. This game is on other platforms, but the site where they sent me this key only shows it as having a Switch version, and their website links me to the Switch version. I found it on PlayStation and Xbox, but not Steam. On these storefronts, they don't do the bundles or free DLC, which just confirms to me that they only do the DLC and bundles on the Switch storefront to take advantage of its eShop search functions. They deliberately divided up the content to take advantage of bundling and use their free DLC as advertisements. On the PS4 and Xbox versions, these free DLC are being charged $1 for. So they're making players on other platforms pay more for the game and its DLC. So when I said they're doing this on the eShop because they can't get away with it on other storefronts, it wasn't speculation or just me saying stuff. It's true. They literally only do it on the Switch because only the Switch allows them to do something like this. Anyway, let's talk about the actual game. Sunseed Island starts with a short story about a tree that gives life to these creatures that are like Care Bears. Each Care Bear-like creature is born with a Teletubby-like antenna with a Care Bear symbol that tells you what the job of the Care Bear is. For example, there's a shark dude called Sherry, who has a steering wheel on their head, and their job is to drive the boat. One with a hammerhead, that's a cow called Doonin, and they're a blacksmith. A beaver with a log antenna called Loggin, who's a carpentry artist. Well, everyone born this way has a dedicated job, and they love doing it and are super appreciative of not having to do bothersome things like thinking for themselves. They just do their assigned job and appreciate it. I'd rip on this, but with how hard it is to actually get hired these days, I'd really appreciate some assigned work. Anyway, the tree dies, and before it does, it spits out one more little freak. That's you. Your name is Perpy. Everyone else leaves their homeland, the island, and your job is unknown. But it's obvious that your job is to return the island to its former glory and bring back the tree's children. So rather than giving you a cool name like Doonin or Foonin, or a name that makes sense for your job like Loggin, or a name based on your species like Sherry, you're called Perpy, because you have purple spots. Such a heroic name. They should have just let us name ourselves. The Legend of Perpy doesn't exactly sell tickets. Anyway, we complete our job by attracting all of the Care Bear knockoffs back to the island and doing quests for them. You'll do this by collecting wood, money, and stone to build homes. Once Doonin and Loggin move in, you'll be able to turn wood and stone into planks and cut stone to build more shops, and an extension onto Doonin's to attract Foonin, who will upgrade your weapons. Well, your tools. From here, you'll do a mix of quests for your townspeople and build new buildings to upgrade your tools and get access to more items. You're constantly doing this loop of collect new wood, new stone, building house, doing a quest on another island to attract the townsperson, then doing another quest for them to unlock new features in the shop, upgrade, and then repeat. You'll complete the quest by collecting items through farming, foraging, fishing, and collecting wood and stone. The characters all have a lot of dialogue for their quests, which is an interesting choice when the game has a lot of typos. They even have typos for words they made up, like, how are you going to misspell the fish Abysmal, whose name you made? Like, there's a quest where they ask you to get Abysmals, and they spell it Abysmal. How are you going to misspell that? You made the name. The dialogue is also handled in a weird way. When it's too large for one box, rather than doing multiple boxes, they shrink the text. There are also multiple misspelled items and descriptions, and some that are just missing a letter. And there are even some minor issues like pathing not being lined up correctly, like this was done in a rush job. But the typos is so avoidable. Your computer comes with spell check built in. Farming is your usual farming game, so if you're tired of every cozy game having the same farming game, then don't expect anything new here. You'll till the soil, put in a seed, then water it, and you'll often be stuck waiting on crops to be finished to progress quests, because they take so much longer than anything else. So you'll wake up, water everything, wait for the clock to hit noon, then go back to sleep and repeat the process. About half the game was this process. If I wasn't waiting for logs and stone to be processed, I was waiting for plants to grow. The game says in the beginning to take your time and do things at your own pace, but there isn't anything to do outside of the quests. Once you've collected the wood and stone you need to build a building and upgrade your tools, then there's nothing else you can do with it. You could earn money, but if you built all the available things for your current material level, or don't have any animals left to buy, then you have nothing to spend your money on. So taking your time is just going to lead to boredom, and feels like it's something to cover the devs' cheeks for when people realize that the game is incredibly short and has nothing to do but quests. Making your game entirely quests would be fine for something like an RPG or something like that, but this is a cozy game or a homesteading game. These games are about the freedom and the relationships you build, and there's no relationship building and there's no freedom. Farming also takes way too much stamina. You can't till, plant, and water your very small field in one day. At the start, at least, you need to eat foraged foods. Even after upgrades, you still can't till, seed, and water an entire field. You can still water an entire field, but by this point, you probably just have so much food that you can eat food and get through it that way. But crops often take more than a week to grow, which means when you get to the point that you're farming just to finish quests, you'll be watering then sleeping for up to 2 in-game weeks. Collecting materials is pretty simple. You'll play Minecraft. You go up to a tree and hit it, then hit rocks. Each island has a different stone and tree type that you'll collect from the most recent, build your building and tools, and then never go back to it until you get to the community center point, and then you won't even use the materials you get from it. You can't progress the game without processing wood and stone into cut versions, so a not insignificant portion of your time is spent waiting on logs and stone to be processed. Some days when I couldn't progress without processed materials, I would just sit there and watch as the logs were being being slowly made. Thankfully, the world's clock pauses when watching them. Foraging on the islands is just collecting shells on the beach that you can sell, chests with money, and food you can eat. Weirdly, it costs energy to grab chests and pick up shells, but it doesn't cost anything to pick up mushrooms or eat berries. You can make meals, but outside of quests, you won't use it because it's easier to eat the massive amount of mushrooms on the islands that you've been hoarding. Fishing in Sunseed Island is genuinely atrocious. It's terrible. Easily the worst fishing minigame I played. You throw out the bobber, wait for a bite, then a bar shows up. The bar indicates how long until the fish gets away, so press A as soon as it shows, don't wait for it to fill. Then the minigame starts. You have a zone where the success meter builds when it's over the fish. When the fish leaves the highlighted zone, the meter drops rapidly. That's when you tap A to move the highlighted section along the bar, but there isn't a way to move it back to the left, unless you just wait. So you have to be very careful not to over tap, but also not take too long to get to where the fish is. The meter drops faster when you're not on the fish than when you are. Fishing is free, and you might feel like doing it in the beginning, but you'll quickly drop it when you realize how terrible it is. You actually won't be fishing until you get several upgrades and go back, and it'll be a lot easier to enjoy then. But even the hitboxes on the fish are incredibly small. You'll fail fishing minigames when you clearly see the highlight sitting on top of the fish. I think the game dev knows how bad it is because no one gives you a fishing quest until you're at the halfway point, and the fish aren't used in anything until the very end for the community center. Almost no one asks you for a fish. The quest menu kind of sucks because the view moves down when you move the cursor down, making it so it obscures quest names so you can't really see what you're on. Once you've finished all the quests for a given NPC, they give you a doll version of themselves. Then you can never talk to them again. So I hope you don't have any favorites. I think this was done so that they didn't have to write more dialogue or come up with small talk. There's even a quest that uses the same dialogue twice, which only confirms that for me. The fish person will ask you to make pumpkin stew for them. Then when they move in, they ask for pumpkin stew again. But you check the quest log, and it shows instead the veggie burger that's misspelled. The NPCs also only talk about their quests. There isn't any character to these characters. You can't get married, which is fine, or build relationships. The items are bare minimum, the mechanics are bare minimum, the dialogue is bare minimum. Everything you do only exists to fulfill these requests and the community center. There is no freedom because there isn't anything to do outside of these quests. There is of course a community center. It's like the museum in Animal Crossing. You'll collect rare items and put them in the community center. It's just another way to artificially lengthen the game by giving you a checklist. This game would be over at 8 hours if you didn't have the community center. Instead it takes 12. Other than that, the game doesn't explain how to play the game to you outside of its in-game manual, but you can also figure it out for yourself. The entire game is build, building, do quest. The interesting thing about the manual is some of the information is just wrong. It feels almost like AI, but I don't want to accuse them of that. For example, the text for wood. Some are easy to find and chop down, while others are rarer and more difficult. The rarer the tree, the harder it'll be to chop. So what can you do to tackle these challenges? Trees aren't harder to cut. They can only be cut with an appropriately leveled axe. Some trees aren't more rare, other than the striped wood that's on the beginning island, and that's it. It's just that some of this text doesn't sound like it was written by someone who knows how the game works. Then it talks about upgrading stuff. It kind of feels like maybe the guide was written before the game was finished because it seems like they wanted more variety in trees, like they wanted to do more with the game but finished it early. But in the rock and ore section, it says that they can be turned into ingots and cut gems. While the rocks are labeled with names from minerals and gems, none of them actually look like gems. They are all the same stone icon. They couldn't be bothered to draw a gem or ingot shape. This game is very rushed, which makes me think more that it's a cash grab for cozy gamers. The game feels like someone wanted to make a cozy game to piggyback on the trend as they didn't match the size of these games. This is like a speedrun version of developing a cozy game. Like I'm going to see a video in my feed soon that says, I made a cozy game in a month, and it's this. So many corners are cut. It's lacking on content. You do the same thing every day. Icons are reused. Stuff is misspelled. There is misinformation in the manual that's supposed to teach you how to play, and it all reads like weird, like every now and then the sea will wash up useful items along the shore. Since they belong to no one, you are free to collect them and sell them for your own profit. That sounds so robotic, and the part where it says, since they belong to no one, it sounds like they wrote one sentence and asked ChatGPT to lengthen it. Like the resources washed up by the sea, mushrooms can be collected and sold. I think a person would write, like seashells, mushrooms can be sold. Like both are correct, but the first one definitely sounds like they asked AI to lengthen it. It's way too verbose for a simple concept. There's not really much of an ending once you beat the game that's that's kind of it. You're just back to where you were. Again, I think they said that they want you to take your time, maybe in hopes that you'll get bored and leave it unfinished before you realize just how lacking it is. Regardless, you'll be taking your time the entire last 2 hours of the game. I think just because the game stays the same throughout, the big reason that they don't put this on Steam is because they know people will refund it in the first 2 hours. Regardless, you'll be taking your time throughout the game anyway, because the entire last 2 hours of gameplay was spent for waiting for plants to grow so I can make all the foods needed to complete the community center. Yep, the Nimzy, the great and powerful Nimzy, Emperor Nimzy, the one who is known for not finishing most games, took the time to finish this one. It took me 8 hours to finish all the quests and get all the community members, but it took almost 12 hours to finish the community center. My reward for a job well done? A cutscene. So that's nice at least. But after that, nothing changes. The entire game, gameplay, and goals are filling the community center and doing quests. Once you've done that, there is nothing left. As I said earlier, you can't even talk to the NPCs again after finishing their quests. You have to buy everything to finish the game, so there's nothing to spend cash on. And if you finish the community center, you've already collected everything. It's fine that it has an end, but I would like to feel like there was a point to my continued existence in the world. Like, just let me talk to people even after the fact. Overall, if this is the devs' first game, it's a decent first try, but it doesn't really match the expectation of what the average gamer, let alone cozy gamers, would expect from a game in this genre. Your unwillingness to put the game on Steam and other platforms is really a big red flag. If I was buying this game and I saw that, then I wouldn't have bought it. I can't recommend this to anyone, because if you played a cozy game, then you're going to get bored of this game because it doesn't do anything different. If you haven't played many cozy games, then I'd recommend one of the much more polished games like Harvest Moon, Animal Crossing, and the like. But if those were too expensive, I'd recommend Stardew, which has gone on many sales, or My Time At series, and has a much more enjoyable experience that isn't just doing checklists. I don't do numbers on games, but I guess I do because of backlogged. So I would say this is like a 2.5, 3 at tops out of 5. Thanks for watching. I'm giving Sunseed Island a hard pass. No thank you. Bye.